are not prepared to listen to this criminal, but will wait outside.
A rocky start in Parliament today as COPE and the EFF walk out of President Jacob Zuma's question and answer session. Anti-gay American preacher Steven Anderson is barred from entering South Africa. This is eNews Direct. A very good evening to you. I'm Kolim Gambi.
And I'm Sandy Lekangose. Good evening.
Now remember to comment on our stories. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook at eNews Direct.
And you can also track our main stories using these hashtags: Zuma QA, Steven Anderson, and Trap Miners. Straight to our top story now. In what's become the norm, President Jacob Zuma's question and answer session got off to a rocky start this afternoon. Some opposition members refused to let him speak, but after COPE and the EFF walked out, it was business as usual in the National Assembly.
Once again, President Jacob Zuma's presence in Parliament was not without drama.
We insist that
Honorable Madisha,
he is not honorable, he is not trustworthy, he
Honorable
is not
Madisha,
representing the people. The only question he must answer is when is he resigning?
We are going to leave this house because we are not prepared to listen to this criminal, but will wait outside.
But ANC Chief Whip Jackson Mthembu came to the defense of the president. He told MPs President Zuma was not there to be ridiculed.
We have been abused and abused. The president has been subjected to abuse, which our rules, Honorable Speaker, do not allow.
But the EFF had had enough. And then it was back to business with South African Airways chairperson Dudu Muyeni's role first on the agenda.
As an individual, I don't see any difference that has come from what she has done and from what other chairs have done before. The SAA has been in trouble. We are trying to get the SAA out of trouble.
Apparent tensions between the presidency and Treasury also cropped up.
I'm saying there is no war between the presidency and the Treasury. This is what we have said. I'm clarifying that point. It must be as clear as anything.
There was also drama outside Parliament, with some EFF supporters involved in a standoff with police. The EFF returned to the House after President Zuma had spoken. Bonga Dlulane, Parliament.
Controversial anti-gay American preacher Steven Anderson has been barred from entering South Africa. Anderson has been deemed an undesirable and prohibited person. Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba made the announcement today. Now, several civil society groups petitioned Home Affairs to prevent the preacher's visit.
It's so funny how this Minister Gigaba said that my views, my Christian views, my biblical views, he said they're backward views. That was the word he used. Yeah, you're the one that's backward, Jigaba. You're the one who thinks that a dude should be intimate with another dude. That's ass backwards, okay? There's nothing backward about the word of God, okay? It's this sodomite agenda that's completely backwards and turning...
Steven Anderson won't be bringing his Baptist church's so-called soul-winning marathon to South Africa.
For those who have bought into some of the lies...
The Evangelical Crusade was set to be held in a parking lot in Boksburg until the Home Affairs Minister decided to ban them from entering the country.
It is under Section 29(1)(d) of the Immigration Act, which states that the Minister of Home Affairs can proclaim any foreign national a prohibited person in South Africa, should that person be a member of an organization or an association that advocates racial hatred.
Anderson and his entourage will also have their visa exemption status withdrawn.
Are prohibited from entering the Republic of South Africa.
Henrik Baird from Gay SA Radio started a petition to prevent Anderson from entering South Africa.
The decision taken by the Honourable Minister today is, however, a giant step forward, sending a clear message to the world that we will not encourage hate, bigotry and intolerance disguised in any form. As South Africans, we are proud that our government has today sent a strong message to its citizens and the rest of the world, namely that LGBTI people are as much South Africans as anybody else.
Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba says Anderson and 17 others have been declared undesirable, and so all airlines and consulates in Canada and the United States have been notified. Anderson, meanwhile, says he feels desperately sorry for all South Africans and he looks forward to spreading his word in Botswana. Annika Larson, Parliament.
It's still unclear when rescue operations for trapped illegal miners will resume. Search operations at a disused mine in Langlaagte were halted when a fire broke out underground. Now, relatives of the miners say they prepared to search for their loved ones themselves. This morning, the body of a 31-year-old man was retrieved.
These illegal miners have just spent 2 weeks underground. They've made a lucky escape, escorted by friends who feared they'd be arrested. Earlier in the week, Zamazamas were taken into police custody as they hit the surface. This man says his brother is below the surface and he's prepared to take the matter into his own hands.
Tina, we can go inside there and rescue our people.
So you're prepared to do that? You're prepared to go underground?
Yes, I'm prepared to go there. Dead or alive, I can go there. I don't even care.
As the time passes, the families turn to their ancestors in desperation.
The information that we have is that when you walk down, you reach a dead end. You need to go a bit up. There's a wall of about 30 centimeters where a slim-bodied person can go through. We know that the rescue team with their regalia, they cannot go through that. So in our view is that they need to make a determination to say, is it possible to enlarge that wall so that they can go and then access the other side where we're told the bodies are.
While friends of the illegal miners say they are prepared to go underground, the Mineral Resources Department awaits a report from inspectors to assess if and when it's safe to resume the search. Foreign governments are also providing consular assistance at the scene. Malungelo Pui, Johannesburg.
In a victory for over-indebted consumers, the Constitutional Court has upheld certain sections of a High Court ruling on Garnishee orders. The matter was brought by a group of Stellenbosch farm workers who'd fallen on hard times. Now, a magistrate will have to ensure that any amount being debited from a salary is appropriate before an order is issued.
A group of low-income workers celebrating a hard-won victory at the Western Cape High Court. Last year, the court ruled against 14 micro-lenders for illegally enforcing hefty Garnishee orders. The decision was then taken to a higher court for clarity of the Magistrates' Courts Act. While the court did not rule the act completely unconstitutional, it did change certain words in the act to make it enforceable immediately. An emolument attachment order, or Garnishee, compels the employer of a defaulting debtor to furnish the debt from their salary.
The most curious one that I've ever seen was that there was a government worker salaried about 12,000 rand per month, but because of so many emolument attachment orders against his salary, he was left with 12 rand at the end of the month.
The order now has to be granted by a presiding officer, such as a magistrate or a judge.
It follows that judicial oversight of the attachment process is a constitutionally indispensable requisite. A debtor's personal circumstances are likely to change between when the judgment debt is entered in order to be paid and when an emoluments attachment order is sought. So not insisting on judicial oversight may limit debtors' constitutional rights of access to court.
Now the court says a Garnishee order can only be obtained in the area where the debtor lives. The Constitutional Court judgment takes immediate effect.
I hand down the judgment.
Jody Jacobs, Constitution Hill.
Tshwane is losing millions of litres of water daily due to leakages. Restrictions are now being implemented in the capital in a bid to reduce water consumption by 15%. Now, residents who don't comply will be fined, but the city will also have to plug a few leaks of its own.
The city of Tshwane loses 90 million litres of water each day in this way. That's enough to fill 35 Olympic-sized swimming pools.
5 years ago, we used to repair 80% of our water leaks within 48 hours. Now we are only repairing 40% of our water leaks in 72 hours. And this is a major concern. It's an issue around resources. We don't have sufficient plumbing teams to go out and do the repairs.
The West Edge costs taxpayers 400 million rand annually. Water restrictions were recently implemented in Johannesburg. Similar rules are now in place in the capital. Tshwane residents will have to change their ways in a bid to save this precious resource. Watering your garden this way has now been banned.
No watering by hose pipes and irrigation is to be done between 6 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening. Washing of vehicles with hose pipes is not allowed.
You'll also need special permission from the council to fill up your pool.
The application will be evaluated and we then respond accordingly.
If residents don't heed the restrictions, they could be slapped with a fine up to 1,500 rand or face stiffer water tariffs. Leranzo Temba, Pretoria.
In news on the international front now, and police in the US are probing an arson attack on a Florida mosque as a hate crime. The Islamic Center is where Orlando gay club shooter Omar Martin worshipped. Now, community activists say the arsonist is terrorizing local Muslims. And the crew of an Indonesian cargo plane have had a close call. The Trigana Air Boeing was carrying 15 tons of fuel. It slid down the runway in a shower of sparks after the landing gear collapsed.
Meanwhile, Xoli has all of your social media.
Well, thanks, Sandile. On hashtag Dahl100, the Oxford English Dictionary has added 6 new words inspired by children's books author Roald Dahl. Now, the well-loved novelist would have been 100 today. The first is Dahlesque, meaning eccentric plots, loathsome adult characters and black humor. While Dahl was not the first person to put the words golden and ticket together, it's his Willy Wonka and Chocolate Factory that really made it famous. Also from Willy Wonka comes the Oompa Loompas, who worked in the chocolate factory. And from the big friendly giant witching hour, human being and another. That's just too difficult to pronounce. Now, on hashtag Stephen Anderson, we conclude with our Twitter poll, and Home Affairs has barred American anti-gay pastor Stephen Anderson from entering South Africa. Now, we asked you what you think of the decision, and so far, 56% say this has been the best decision ever. 14% are saying that this is just an overreaction, and another 14% are asking who is Anderson anyway, and another 16% say, who cares? Now, so some are saying there's even another hate in South Africa and no need for a foreigner to preach more hatred. Now remember, to comment on these stories and more, check out our Twitter and Facebook pages at eNews Direct or go to eNCA.com/direct. After the break, it's your business news and weather. Let's give you some business news now, and Sishen Iron Ore Company has been slapped with a 1 billion rand bill by SARS. It plans to dispute the amount for the 2011 tax year. Now, Kumba received a 5 billion tax claim in February, including a 3.7 billion rand in interest charges and penalties. This follows an audit subsidiary, Sishen Iron Ore Company, for the years 2006 to 2010. Now, the company says it disagrees with the audit findings and will respond to the letter within the prescribed period. Kumba CEO Themba Mkhwanazi insists the company and its subsidiaries have complied with all applicable tax laws. And on that note, let's take a look at how the markets performed today. Your weather forecast is up next with Candice McCartney.
Wednesday morning starts off with some drizzle along the northeastern escarpment, and we're expecting another cloudy, wet and cool day for KwaZulu-Natal with some rainfall along parts of the Eastern Cape coastline, and we'll see a band of thunderstorms extending across South Africa's interior, but with another sunny and warm day expected in the west. You'll see highs peaking in the upper teens and low 20s for KwaZulu-Natal with cloudy and wet weather along the coast and thundershowers over the interior with a watch of the possibility of severe thunderstorm developments. We're also expecting thundershowers over the eastern part of the Eastern Cape with some rain extending all the way through to Port Alfred at 21 degrees, partly cloudy for Port Elizabeth at 21, and we keep in the low 20s along the coast all the way through to Hermanus, sunny and warm for the rest of the province with highs in the middle and upper 20s. You'll also see a warm and drier day throughout the Northern Cape other than isolated thundershowers for Kimberley at 30 degrees. We stick with that chance of thunderstorm activity as we head towards the Free State, 25 for Bloemfontein and Welkom, but with a cooler day over the eastern part of the province, as well as for the northwest, where you'll see highs mainly in the mid-20s with isolated thundershowers in the forecast. We're expecting cooler weather for Limpopo with some cloud overhead, and morning drizzle starts off the day for Zenine at 23 degrees, as well as Bombela at 21. Cooler weather moves in over the southern Mpumalanga Highveld with the possibility of isolated thundershowers, and we're expecting a cooler day for Gauteng on Wednesday, 23 degrees for Johannesburg and Soweto, with thundershowers mainly over the southern part of the province. 30 degrees for Richards Bay on Thursday with the possibility of rainfall. We're also expecting rainfall for Cape Town at 20, but with a warm afternoon for George at 27. Sizzling hot over the eastern part of the country on Friday, but with an intense cold front moving in over the western parts, bringing in very cold, wet and windy conditions with it. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Have a great night.
Coming up after the break, an unusual take on a cruel and spiteful couple from a children's book by Roald Dahl.
How frightfully nice.
Well, in our final story, a classic children's story written by Roald Dahl has been given a new twist.
And is being staged as a play with unusual meals for an interactive theatre experience.
Quiet. Shut up. Ah, hello. How frightfully nice to see you all, my dear friends. I hope you have been enjoying the canapes. Isn't it a wonderful day?
What are you talking like that for?
I'm speaking proper for our guests.
A cruel and spiteful couple. The Twits are hosting the world's worst dinner party to renew their wedding vows, and the audience gets to taste unusual dishes cooked up by Bumpus and Pa.
Of course, with this, he wants to make all the food almost like a punch in the face in a good way. And so you've got everything from oral scratchings, some sort of deep-fried pig's ears, to the festering clutch. You rummage in the compost heap and you find eggs actually cooked in compost.
The couple loathe each other and expect the same treatment during the 90-minute performance. The adaptation is being staged in honor of the author's centenary.
Well, let's recap your top stories this evening.
You are not prepared to listen to this criminal, but will wait outside.
A rocky start in Parliament today as COPE and the EFF walk out of President Jacob Zuma's question and answer session. Anti-gay American preacher Steven Anderson is barred from entering South Africa. Well, that's a wrap from the eNews Direct team.
It is indeed. Until next time, take care.